You're about to uncover a secret method that has been concealed for over 3 millennia. It was employed by the initiates of Thoth to activate true inner vision, the kind that perceives what the physical eyes cannot convey. And the most astonishing part, your body has already started utilizing this technique without your awareness. You know that sensation that something is amiss but no one else notices, or that sudden chill that manifests from nowhere, as if someone called out to you from within. These aren't just mere symptoms, they are signs. Signs that your perception has already begun to pierce the veil, and by the conclusion of this, you'll master the vibrational code that activates this portal. But first, you need to comprehend why you already exist between two worlds and what transpires when you finally learn to perceive both simultaneously. The dual realms of existence. If you separate the spirit from the body and learn to see with the eyes of the soul, then the hidden truth behind all forms will be revealed to you. You've always existed between two worlds. This isn't a metaphor or a fantasy. It's reality, a reality as ancient as time itself. But no one informed you. No one instructed you on how to discern it. Since the earliest stages of civilization, the great sages knew about the existence of these two overlapping layers. At every moment, there is the physical, concrete, visible world, and the subtle, energetic, vibrational world. The first is evident, the second, silent, but it is perpetually present. Most people believe that only what can be touched, measured, or proven truly exists. But the ancients understood that was merely a segment of the entirety. They termed the invisible the spiritual world, the ether, the astral plane, In ancient India, they spoke of the material plane and the causal plane. The Egyptians spoke of the visible world and the duot. The Greeks called them the sensible and the intelligible. And the masters of the Hermetic tradition grasped this clearly. Everything physical is just the temporary manifestation of something far more profound. The body senses, but the field surrounding the body already knew. The rational mind reacts, but the subtle awareness had already detected it. You believe, you're making a decision now, but on deeper levels, your vibration had already begun to turn the gears of reality long ago. This isn't magic, this is ancient science. It's refined perception. And more than that, it's an inherent part of your nature. Since your birth, you've had access to both worlds. But your education, your environment, your culture, all of it, was designed to disconnect you from one of them. You learned to trust only in what your eyes perceive, in numbers, in logic. You learned that seeing is believing, but no one ever taught you that there are things you can only perceive when you feel, when you become silent, when you observe with something beyond ordinary vision. And that's why you ceased believing in yourself. That feeling that emerged from nowhere, that strange dream that later materialized, that impression that something felt off in the atmosphere, it was all dismissed as merely your imagination. But it wasn't. It was your perception crossing the boundary between worlds. It was your consciousness attempting to remind you that there is more, much more, than what your physical eyes can capture. Have you ever noticed how, in certain moments, time seems to extend, like a tiny fraction of a second possessed a different weight, like the environment around you decelerated? It's in those moments that the second world reveals itself. It doesn't arrive with a grand announcement. It slips in. It breathes in the pause between thoughts. It resides in the spaces between the lines of reality. And you've been there many times, even without knowing it. The ancient masters stated, the visible world is like the shadow of something greater. Like Plato described, most people exist staring at a wall, seeing only shadows and believing that's all there is. But those who dare to turn their gaze discover a source of light that was always present, obscured by routine, by haste, by distraction. And when you behold that light for the first time, your life is never the same. You don't need to transform into someone else. You don't need to study for years or adhere to rigid regulations. You just need to start remembering, because deep down, something in you already knows. And that's why you feel what you feel. That's why certain places give you chills. That's why, even without tangible proof, you know there's something more. You are between two worlds. You always have been. But only now have you begun to notice. And this is where everything fundamentally alters. The ancient code of Thoth, because those who discovered how to perceive both worlds simultaneously left behind a method, and it was hidden until now. The forbidden knowledge that Thoth passed on in secret. This method wasn't recently devised. It's ancient, far older than any organized religion, any modern science, any popular spiritual doctrine. It was preserved by one of the most enigmatic names in history, Thoth, also known as Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great. Thoth was regarded as the master of cycles, the lord of time, of the creative word, and of access between worlds. But, most importantly, he was one of the first to document what we now term the path to inner vision. But why is this not commonly discussed? Why was this knowledge veiled for so long? Because it wasn't safe in the wrong hands. This technique wasn't merely another self-awareness practice. It literally opened the doors of perception. It expanded the senses. It shattered the illusion of matter as the sole reality. And in doing so, it revealed what lay behind the veil: patterns, frequencies, hidden intentions. Once activated, this vision permitted you to perceive not just the world, but the forces that animate it. It wasn't something that could be imparted to the masses, because not everyone is prepared to see what truly exists here. That's why, in his texts, Thoth employed codes, symbolic language, metaphors, phrases that at first glance appeared as poetry or mysticism, but carried vibrational instructions for those who were ready. He didn't speak to the rational mind. He spoke to the consciousness behind the mind. Only the initiates could decipher it, and this initiation didn't occur in grand temples, but in the silence of being, in the encounter with oneself. For millennia, this knowledge was transmitted in this manner, from master to disciple, in secret, one by one. There were no lectures, no public books, only vibrational transmission between two aligned consciousnesses. And why such meticulous care? Because those who weren't prepared for this vision could become disoriented by what they perceived. Because seeing beyond the illusion requires spiritual maturity. The truth can liberate you, but it can also disorient if it arrives at the wrong juncture. Thoth understood this, and so did his initiates. They weren't fundamentally different from you. They were simply ready to cross the veil, and for that, they needed more than curiosity. They needed presence, surrender, inner discipline, because this vision cannot be purchased. It's not inherited. It's earned through frequency alignment and genuine intention. Over time, this knowledge dissolved into the sands of history. Some parts were lost, others were deliberately hidden, and others still exist in ancient texts, disregarded by those who read with their eyes, but not with their hearts. The Emerald Tablet, for instance, is one of those clues, an encrypted summary of the path of inner transmutation. Every line contains multiple levels of understanding, but without the key, it all just seems like an archaic enigma. But that key isn't external. It never was. It's within. And that's what renders this technique so potent. The hidden function of dreams, because it doesn't depend on external instruments, or mentors, or physical temples. It depends solely on you and your willingness to look, to feel, to activate what's already present, but dormant. You've possessed this capability since your birth. It's not a special gift reserved for a select few. It's part of the very structure of your consciousness, an internal instrument that fell silent from disuse. But now, with everything you've begun to perceive, it's about to awaken. And now that you've reached this point, you're prepared to uncover the truth about the forgotten function you already utilize every day without knowing it. And the most remarkable part is that you access this vision every day, in the moment you least anticipate, while you sleep. Yes, while your body rests, something within you moves beyond the physical world. You dream, and dreaming is seeing without the eyes. Have you ever truly pondered that? How is it conceivable that with your eyes closed and no external stimuli, you can visualize entire scenes, colors, faces, emotions, places? Where do those images originate? They're not projections of the physical world. They're internal manifestations, reflections of another layer of consciousness that remains active while the logical mind is silent. And that layer is precisely where your inner vision resides. Modern science labels this vivid imagination, but serious studies are already demonstrating that the human brain processes, while dreaming, a type of visual activity that doesn't depend on light or the retina. These are internal recordings, subtle accesses to content that transcend the conscious mind. This is the territory where the third eye operates. And no, it's not an esoteric symbol without basis. It's a functional vibrational structure, an internal lens that operates outside the realm of the five traditional senses. In your early years, you employed this vision constantly. Just observe a baby. They gaze into the void and smile. They fix their stare on points adults cannot perceive. Small children communicate with presences adults don't notice, and the usual response is, it's just imagination. But what we term imagination, in this context, is subtle perception, the same perception you lost access to when you learned to rationalize everything, when you began relying solely on what was tangible, predictable, and socially acceptable. But that vision never departed from you. It simply became quiet, awaiting the moment you'd be ready to activate it again. And perhaps that moment has arrived now, because if you've progressed this far, it's because something within you has begun to sense that there is far more than what lies directly before your eyes. The three pillars of inner vision, in the center of the forehead, a place that many ancient spiritual traditions revered as the seat of subtle perception. And now you're going to perform something simple, yet extraordinarily powerful. Bring your attention there. No effort, no expectation, just full awareness. Close your eyes for a moment. Breathe slowly. Feel the air entering through your nostrils, gently flowing down into your lungs, filling your body like a calm breeze. Exhale slowly. Do it once more, and now direct your attention to the center of your forehead. Don't force anything, just feel. Imagine your breath touching this point. Each time it enters and exits, it's as if the air is gently purifying this inner space. You might begin to feel a slight tingling, a gentle pressure, a warmth that slowly arises. Some people feel like a droplet of light is pulsating there. Others describe it as a field vibrating outward, like a small sun beginning to illuminate within their own head. But don't worry if you don't feel anything immediately. What matters is that your attention is focused there, and where attention goes, energy flows. This point between the eyebrows is a genuine energy center, not discernible to the physical eye, but clearly perceived by those who begin to connect with it. The Vedic tradition calls it a center of inner vision, refined intuition, direct perception. It's in this center that information not originating from conventional senses is processed. When you concentrate on this point with intention, you're literally activating the inner light of your being. Science is still taking its initial steps in this area, but studies are already demonstrating neurological changes when experienced. Meditators focus on this point. Brain activity alters. Brain waves reorganize. The body enters states of profound coherence. But the most crucial part isn't in the data. It's in the direct experience. And that's what is occurring within you now. If you gently maintain your attention on the spot between your eyebrows, something begins to shift internally. You don't need to imagine anything. Just observe. This point acts like an antenna. It not only receives information, but also transmits. It's like a silent radar that senses what lies beneath the surface. Inner sounds, colors that don't come from external sources, light sensations that arise unexpectedly and slowly begin to make sense. And perhaps right now, something is stirring within you, not like an idea but like a memory, as if a forgotten part were reawakening. This point between your eyebrows is like a door, an energetic key. When you direct your inner gaze to it, you're communicating to your body. I'm ready to see, not with my eyes, but with what lies behind them. Thousands of people report that after a few simple breathing practices and focus on this point, they begin to perceive patterns, sensations, subtle shifts in how they think and feel. Choices become more intuitive, decisions gain clarity, words emerge with more power, as if an inner compass is finally being reconnected. You're reactivating a center that was never truly shut off, just dormant. And by bringing your attention back to it, you've already commenced the process of vibrational reactivation. Simply focusing on this point begins to reorganize your perception. It's like you're cleaning a lens that has been clouded for years, and now, little by little, it starts to unveil what has always been present, but unseen. This is the indication that the energy center is responding, and when you align the three main elements, this vision opens like a portal. It's not a physical movement or a complex exercise. It's a tuning, a frequency that only activates when three fundamental elements vibrate in harmony. They're like the three sides of a bridge. Without any one of them, the crossing cannot sustain, but when they are together, they pave the path to something few dare to experience. The conscious activation of inner vision. The first is conscious silence, but not just any silence. Not the one that happens when you turn off the television or close the door. That's merely the silence of the mouth, of the environment. What we're discussing here is the silence between your own thoughts, that invisible gap between one idea and another. A tiny space that, when observed, begins to expand. And in that space, there is power. Because true silence isn't the absence of sound, it's the presence of perception. It's the point where you stop reacting to the world and start feeling the essence of things as they are. The ancients said silence is the language of the spirit, and when you learn to listen in this frequency, inner vision begins to emerge naturally, as a true reflection. The second pillar is sacred breathing. You breathe constantly, but what would it be like to breathe with intention, with presence, with full awareness? The sages discovered that certain breathing patterns completely altered the body's energy field. They don't just oxygenate the brain, they also reorganize brainwaves, calm the nervous system, and release what was blocked. When you breathe consciously, your mind aligns with your body. Rush disappears, anxiety slows down, and your attention becomes clear, stable, pristine. In that state, energy begins to flow to the appropriate locations, including the center of the forehead, the channel of inner vision. Breath is the portal between the visible and the invisible, and learning to traverse it is what transforms everything. The third pillar is the most challenging in modern life: directed attention. In a world where everything competes for your focus, learning to maintain concentration on a single point is almost a forgotten art. But it's this art that awakens what has been dormant. Attention is like a laser beam. If it's scattered, it possesses no power, but if it's focused, it can penetrate any barrier. When you learn to direct your attention inward, especially to the energy point between the eyebrows, your perception shifts to a new level. You depart from the surface of the mind and delve into the vibrational field of consciousness. Inner vision doesn't open for the merely curious. It opens for the focused, for those who hold their gaze even when nothing appears to be occurring. These three pillars, silence, breath, and attention, function like synchronized gears. Individually, they are already potent, but together, they create a specific vibrational code that activates the field of perception that has been dormant. It's like energizing a long-forgotten machine. The ancients knew this. That's why it wasn't sufficient merely to meditate, or only to breathe, or just to focus. It had to be all three, performed simultaneously, in a rhythm, a sequence, with true intention. And that's where the secret lies, because there's only one way to combine them correctly. And it was encoded in an ancient secret ritual with 7 breathing steps. You're about to learn it now. The ritual of 7 breaths, the method to open the portal of hidden perception. It's no coincidence that there are 7. The number 7 carries an archetypal pattern present in almost all sacred traditions. 7 colors, 7 notes, 7 chakras, 7 heavens. But here, the 7 breaths represent 7 doors that open one by one until the 8th. The one not seen with the eyes reveals the invisible. So breathe with me, but not as you usually do now. Each breath will be a call, an activation, a step inward. On the first breath, you will simply inhale slowly, deeply, and visualize a golden light filling your body. Don't worry about seeing it clearly. Just imagine. As you exhale, release the air as if relinquishing the weight of the world. This is the entrance door. On the second breath, imagine this light beginning to gather at the center of your forehead. And as you exhale, picture a gentle mist starting to clear around you. Time seems to slow down. The noise of the mind fades. You're crossing the threshold of thought. On the third breath, feel as though the air isn't just entering your lungs but every cell, as if your entire body is breathing with you. And as you release, you let go of all hidden tension. Something within you begins to expand. It's subtle, but it's present. The fourth breath marks the transition point. Now, the light you inhale no longer remains only in the body. It starts to extend beyond your physical limits. You feel a mild warmth in the center of your forehead. Perhaps a tingling, perhaps pressure. Just observe. Don't attempt to control it. By the fifth, the sensation of time nearly disappears. You are between what was and what is yet to come. A silent space begins to open. Some people report seeing images with closed eyes, colors, symbols, movements. Others feel like they're approaching something without knowing what. On the sixth breath, you allow yourself to surrender. No forcing, no thinking, just breathing. And in that moment, the entire body seems to enter a suspended state. Air flows in and out, but you're no longer just breathing. You're tuning in, like an instrument that after years out of tune, finally, returns to its original tone. On the seventh, you remain in silence. Inhale and exhale as if floating. The mind doesn't struggle. The body feels light. Reality seems distant, yet simultaneously more vibrant. You're on the threshold of the invisible, and if you allow this state to unfold without resistance, the veil begins to dissolve. But if you believe this is the pinnacle, prepare yourself, because what comes next is the most mysterious expanse of the mind, and you're about to enter it consciously. The blind spot of consciousness. This space isn't visible under a microscope or a telescope, but it's there, between the two. An imperceptible gap between one thought and another, a crack between what you think and what you are. This place was referred to by the ancients as the blind spot of consciousness, a place where the logical mind cannot enter, where time dissolves, where the usual rules of thought no longer apply. And the most intriguing part is that you've already been there. Everyone has passed through this point. You know that moment right before you drift into sleep, when you're not fully awake but not yet slumbering. That's it. This in-between state is the first portal, but it passes swiftly. And since most people were never trained to notice it, it simply slips by. But now you're learning to recognize it, and more importantly, you're learning to remain within it. In this space, time doesn't behave conventionally. Minutes can feel like hours. Ideas arise effortlessly. Sensations that were once muted become sharp, and perception shifts. You cease observing the world from the outside and begin to perceive the world that vibrates within. At this juncture, inner vision starts to emerge like a new lens. You discern what was hidden, not with the physical eyes, but with the conscious field that has always been operating in the background. The dance of mental waves, what you perceive, feel, and comprehend, begins to function on a different pattern, and this is substantiated. Modern science has already demonstrated that your brain doesn't emit a single frequency. It shifts, it dances, it adapts, and this mental dance defines the quality of your consciousness in that moment. During the normal waking state, you operate in the beta frequency. It's useful for working, making logical decisions, responding to the world. But it's also in this state that the mind tends to be more agitated, critical, anxious. In the alpha state, brain activity slows down. You enter a more creative, intuitive, receptive field. This is the level where artists find inspiration, where ideas are born, and this is precisely where the bridge begins to form between the external world and the subtle one. When you delve even deeper and enter the theta frequency, you're navigating between wakefulness and sleeper space, where the logical mind almost completely falls silent and the subconscious takes the lead. Small children operate in this frequency naturally. That's why they learn so quickly through effortless observation. In this state, hidden memories surface, profound insights occur, and more than that, this is where you begin to see what lies beyond. Even lower is the delta frequency, associated with deep sleep, cellular regeneration, and in advanced practitioners, contact with zones of the collective unconscious. States of profound healing and out-of-body experiences tend to occur at these levels. But this isn't about sleeping. It's about accessing these waves with a conscious, grounded mind. And that's what the previous exercise began to prepare in you. When you enter this internal rhythm, the outer world begins to feel different. Colors appear more vivid. Sounds become more subtle. Thoughts slow down. And then, inner vision begins to take the place of normal perception. It's not that you start perceiving fantastic things, as in films. It's that you begin to notice what has always been here, but you never had access to. The vibrational field of people, the intention behind words, the energetic state of a space. All of this begins to become visible, not with your eyes, but with your consciousness. Some call this awakening. Others call it expanded perception. The name doesn't matter. What matters is that, once you enter this state, you don't revert to being the same. Your sensitivity increases, your intuition grows stronger, and your connection with the invisible becomes natural. But with this opening, something else changes. You begin to attract what protects this threshold, because by activating this field, you draw something few are ready to confront. The threshold guardians, and you need to know how to navigate through them. These guardians don't appear as mystical figures or external entities. They emerge from within you. They are deep reflections of your own mind, activated when you begin to move beyond the limits of the known. The first is doubt, not superficial doubt about techniques or methods, but a profound doubt that touches your very identity. You begin to question, is this all real, or am I deceiving myself? This is the test of inner faith, not blind faith, but vibrational faith, the ability to remain present without guarantees. Then comes fear, an ancient fear, the fear of losing control, of surrendering, of no longer being who you believed you were. It manifests as resistance, as a sudden urge to cease, to retreat to the comfort of routine. But fear here is a guardian asking, are you ready to cross the portal without knowing what lies on the other side? And then comes impatience, the desire for immediate results. The modern mind craves signs, proof, rewards. But inner vision doesn't operate in that manner. It unfolds like a flower in its own time. If you attempt to force it, it retreats. This guardian teaches you to wait with presence, not expectation. The last, and perhaps most subtle, is the spiritual ego. When you begin to feel new things, perceive more, have different experiences, the notion might arise that you're special, distinct from others, superior. This is the poison that closes the channel before it fully opens, because true inner vision can only be sustained by humility, not pride. It blossoms in emptiness, not in the need to be someone. And now that your vision has opened, comes the most crucial part, how to live with it in the real world. That's the content for a deeper exploration. You're ready. If you felt like this message was intended for you, consider the profound shift already in motion. This journey is one of continuous awakening.